So, good evening, everyone. We have Mohnish Wadhwa, managing partner at Wadhwa and Shah with us. So, few of you might remember Mohnish writing a Medium article for us late last year about the income tax laws in crypto under the older regime. So we'll let Mohnish introduce himself and maybe speak a bit about how we got interested in crypto, etc. And then Mohnish is here today. He's going to give us an overview of the new income tax laws, which all of us have been waiting eagerly to understand. So over to you, Mohnish.
Thank you, Chandan. So regarding, of course, answering your first question about the background where I'm coming from, qualified as a chartered accountant in 2011, got interested in the space in 2015, 2016. I think that was a very early stages of crypto being penetrated into India. I got inclined towards this space primarily because I started getting too many inquiries, because we have always been serving a lot of startups, and startups being tech giants, they have always been inclined towards the new tech developments. So that is where I came to know that this is something which is going to stay, and my interest started building up in the space of blockchain primarily. Of course, crypto is a very small subset of the entire blockchain ecosystem. So you can say a consolidated 6 to 7 years I've been in this space, and I've seen that there have been a lot of developments, there have been a lot of ideas which have been implemented on this space. Of course, a lot of these ideas are disruptive. There have been continuous efforts from the entire ecosystem, the entire lobby of cryptocurrencies and blockchain, which has been approaching the government since a lot of years to come out with some clarity on regulations, taxations. It took government, I think, a lot of time, because, of course, India is not a very easy jurisdiction to handle. Everybody, all of us know that. It's a complicated jurisdiction with a very closed fund movement within India, outside India, and that is where RBI, FEMA, and all those rules and regulations comes in. That is primarily a reason why we don't have a regulation in India yet, and government is still drafting or maybe coming out with fine tunes in the regulations. But in the interim, they have proposed, and they recently even enacted in Rajya Sabha. The bill became an act, and the tax laws of cryptocurrency taxation, so-called, was introduced. All of us have, of course, followed what the Honorable Finance Minister had proposed in the Parliament. Subsequently, there were a few amendments, or maybe you can say clarifications, which were proposed because there were a lot of queries, a lot of lobbying done based on the laws which were proposed in the session. So there were a few amendments also. So now what we will discuss will be post the amendments which has happened, the status which remains today. I would, to start with what was proposed by the government, I would just categorize the proposals into three parts. The first would be, of course, a straightforward tax of 30%. Government introduced a straightforward tax of 30% on the income which a trader earns from selling cryptocurrencies. So we are talking about only cryptocurrencies here, so I'm just touching base on cryptocurrencies, but otherwise they have defined a term called virtual digital assets, within which cryptocurrencies fall. Under that, even NFTs fall. So since you're talking about cryptocurrencies here, I will just say that 30% tax is applicable from 1st of April 22 onwards on the income which a person earns from the sale of cryptocurrencies. Now, how do you calculate this income? The simple math which they have given is the income would be the value of sale minus the cost of acquisition. So suppose if you have purchased a cryptocurrency, any token at a value of 20,000 INR, and if you sell it for 30,000, you get a deduction of 20,000 and you have to pay tax on 10,000 straightforward at 30%. You don't get any threshold exemption there. So it is a straightforward tax. Even if you have a slab of 2,50,000 being an individual, uh, having a less than 2,50,000 income, yet you will have to pay tax at 30%. Another introduction which they have done, which I think even government is not clear how to implement, is the tax reduction at source. uh, we ourselves, being in this industry and being in this compliance mode, we are still trying to figure out how these compliances will be taken care by the government, because the way this thing has been proposed is really complicated, because they want each and every a buyer of cryptocurrency to deduct taxes if he's selling cryptocurrency to a resident. So any person who is liable to pay some any sum to a seller has to deduct 1% and pay the balance amount to the seller and deposit that 1% of taxes to the credit of central government. So we can see we've seen in past 6 to 7 years the amount of volumes which have increased in cryptocurrencies, in spot trading, as well as in P2P transactions. Uh, Compiling all of those transactions together, one can imagine how much would that 1% actually tantamount to. So of course, this was expected, but we were expecting there will be a zero point 0.1 or 0.01% of TDS, because the ideal reason of there being TDS in the entire structure is just because government wants to monitor who is actually selling those cryptocurrencies, so that the entire details can be centrally available to the government in case they want to actually understand the source of income of that person. But 1% is something which was out of question. Of course, again, we believe still that there will be some amendments which the government will come in near future after they come up with regulations, wherein they will try to regulate the exchanges.
So
The
this
third thing,
1% is applicable from July 1st, right, Monish?
yeah, this is TDS is applicable from July 1st. So basically, the idea was, of course, whenever there is a amendment in TDS, we've seen in past that the government usually gives a quarter, an extra quarter time, because
Right.
the companies need to adapt that system in their accounting systems, to lay out policies, to lay out procedures. Even government needs to actually make certain changes at their end. So that is the reason usually TDS, any such changes which are in the TDS laws are usually implemented from 1st of July. And of course, this is also has been implemented from 1st of July. We are expecting there will be some interim guidelines or clarifications which will come in, wherein they will clarify exactly who is liable, because one of the confusions here is the buyer does not know who the seller is. So when I deduct TDS on and I'm purchasing some crypto on an exchange, some token on an exchange, I don't know who the seller is. Only an exchange knows it. So when you cast this liability on the buyer to take care of this 1% liability, he is not aware of who the seller is, then he is actually in a dilemma on where he should deposit that 1%, on whose pan he should deposit that 1%. So ideally, this should actually come down to an exchange. But again, coming back to the same logic, that since exchanges have not been regulated yet by the government, they could not impose this responsibility on the exchanges for now. That is what our understanding is. Uh, so, yes, you're saying something, Chan.
No, no, please carry on.
So, having said that, of course, exchanges will have to take up this responsibility, is what our understanding is, because in the absence of any details of seller, there is another provision in the income tax law which says if you don't have the details of PAN of the seller, in that case, 20% of taxes will have to be deducted. So that's a straightforward section which says if you're dealing with a person who does not have PAN, 20% higher rate of taxes will have to be deducted, and 1% tax will not apply in that case. So that is a very aggressive section. So of course, government will have to come out with some clarifications here. The third important thing which was proposed and of course enacted in the parliament was um, changing in the definition of properties when it comes to gifts. So there is a section which charges any amount which you receive free of cost and it has a fair market value. That section has always been charging tax to properties. If you will receive a property at less than fair market value, then you're supposed to pay taxes at a differential value of the value which is there persisting in the market minus the amount of consideration you're paying. So far, the definition of properties did not have virtual digital assets. Now, the government has added VDAs, virtual digital assets, to the definition of property, thereby which clarifies that the gift section now includes VDAs. So this primarily would be because the government has not made any clarifications when it comes to a lot of special transactions which we see happening in the case of cryptocurrencies like minings, airdrops. In the case of a lot of times there are staking transactions where you receive more than what you actually lend. In those cases, how would you tax the extra amount which you're receiving without incurring any cost? So that ideally will fall under the gift criteria, and that is where it will be taxed as a gift. Uh, this is a overall change which I would say has been proposed by the government. Of course, there have been a couple of aggressive stands which government has taken while they introduced this provision, which I have seen for the first time to happen. Like for the first time, it has so happened that uh, TDS under two sections can be deducted if there is one transaction in cryptocurrencies. So today, if I am actually rendering services to you as a architect and you pay me in my consideration in cryptocurrencies, you are ideally supposed to deduct taxes under 194J because I am offering you services and you're paying me consideration. And I am supposed to deduct TDS because I am ultimately buying cryptocurrency from you. So I need to deduct TDS at 1%. So there is a dual TDS reporting also involved here, which is one of a kind. So this is something which is really interesting to learn. So far, we have not seen any of these kinds happening.
Right.
So overall, this was a gist of what has been introduced. Of course, over the period of time, we will see a lot of loopholes, a lot of gray areas, a lot of interpretations being plugged in by the government over the period of time. Because we have seen India is a dynamic mind. People try to search for loopholes, people try to find out what are the nitty-gritties, and then government comes out with clarifications, and then again the thing goes to interpretations, petitions, and whatnot. So this is not very easy to digest at the very first stage. Of course, we will, I think, mature with time on this entire introduction.
Right. So it's the first budget, I think, in which even VDA was defined, right? What is a
Yes.
VDA, etc. And we are, let's say, within
Yes.
1 or 2 months into the new regime
Yeah.
itself. So do
Yes.
you expect that over time life is going to get easier for crypto guys, like with the
Yes, definitely.
right?
So this is something which is new for the entire bureaucrat system to adapt. So now that there are some guidelines which lay down in black and white what VDA means, how it has to be taxed, since there is clarity and there is adaptability, I think over the period of time, the seriousness will come in and people will start trying to adapt. And I feel 30% taxes were anyways there in the system of Indian tax regime.
Right.
So it's not really very harsh to introduce 30% taxes. Of course, there are a few provisions which have been proposed, which a lot of people are lobbying for further amendments and clarifications, which will come over the period of time. I'm sure this government is really very positive when it comes to adapting the new technology, which has also been said and accepted by the finance ministers a lot of time when we have seen in past. So I think yes, this is a first move towards some positive movement towards adapting cryptocurrencies in
Right.
India.
And I think it was very interesting that we saw NFTs being defined explicitly as a
Yeah.
VDA in the memoranda to the
So
budget speech.
NFTs have its own potential. I've
Right.
seen NFTs, the way they are being exploited. This entire technology is being exploited. One of our clients is a music company. They are trying to move entirely towards the NFT space. They have a lot of music which is not exploited. So they are now inclined towards exploiting those unexploited musics through NFTs, which is a really good thing. So NFTs can be really used in a rightful way for it can actually take care of the uh, patent requirement of taking care of any music or an art, so that the originality of a particular art is maintained. So that is where I think NFTs can play a very good role.
Yeah. And I think in the budget speech, it was clearly defined. Like NFTs were included explicitly as part of the VDA definition. Yeah.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
that gives it a lot of acceptance.
I genuinely feel NFTs have not been really on a forefront in India, because maybe cryptocurrencies are the first problem to solve for the government, and then
Right.
comes the NFTs. But NFTs has its own potential, which I think people will understand over the period of time. Like today, we have seen a lot of exchanges like you guys educating a lot of retail users about what cryptocurrency is. The next move, I think, will be towards NFTs, when people actually understand, because for understanding NFTs, they need to first understand cryptocurrencies, and then they will come to NFTs.
Right.
So it has to be a stepwise move. But I think, yeah, it is a good move by all of you guys who are taking to it to actually educate the retail users.
Right. So if you see the IRS website in the US, right, their FAQ on cryptos itself runs into hundreds of pages. Like they cover every single
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So probably over
And
time, yeah, we'll
the
see that here as
beauty,
well.
the
Yeah.
beauty in US is each and every state in the United States regulates cryptocurrency independently. So the OFAC, which is the regulatory body there, has come out with guidelines which states that everybody will have to take care of cryptocurrencies, and they have given each and every state, New York, California, Wyoming, Delaware, everybody has to come out with their own regulations. The other day I was actually watching through the cryptocurrency regulations of New York. As you said, it ran into hundreds of pages. The FAQs was so vast, and the questions were really important to understand. So more than the answers, the questions were important. So I have seen those things, and I see that those questions will actually get replicated in India over the period of time after
Right.
the regulations come
Yeah.
in.
So I think in the AMA already we are we have all that. It's starting to come already. So
Oh, is it?
yeah. Uh, one of the questions is like about income earned via mining, etc. Right? So let's say airdrops, mining,
Yes.
faucets, etc. So is the new tax applicable on that as well? So I think maybe we can
Yeah.
start off with
So
this question. Right.
yeah. So basically, specifically, the government has not touched base on this topic. Of course, there was earlier when the bill was proposed, the government had mentioned that transfer of cryptocurrencies should be taxed. Now, the beauty again of the income tax law is there are a lot of case laws. So, transfer itself, transfer terminology in income tax has thousands and lakhs of case laws which define transfers, in which transfers, there are a lot of high court and supreme court judgments which say that when there is no cost of acquisition, then there is no transfer involved. So you cannot say there is transfer when there is no cost of acquisition. And that is where, if you see the clarifications which came in, the amendments which came in, which specifically stated that you are not supposed to rely on the definition of transfer, irrespective of there being any cost of acquisition or not. The value which you received, even in tokens, will be taxed. So where it will fall is, I would say, there is a repository clause which has been introduced, like under the gift clause, wherein it says if you receive anything without any consideration being paid, then it has to be considered as received under section 56, which is the gift law.
Right.
So that is what the prima facie reading is.
So Mohnish, one request we have in the like AMA chat is to use Hindi as well. So I think. Yeah.
Okay, I'll take care. Yeah.
Okay. So
maybe I can rather use Hindi, because people who are actually listening to us would understand Hindi, and certain important things can be repeated in English.
Right. So maybe I'll ask the questions in English, और आप हिंदी में जवाब दीजिए तो.
Sure.
So next question is, if my entry was in the previous years, right? So April 1st है, उससे पहले अगर एंट्री था, in that case how will the income tax applicability be? That is a related question, is that are they taxed from retrospective effect or are they forward looking?
No, so गवर्नमेंट ने ये चीज क्लियर की है कि ये जो भी लॉज इम्प्लीमेंट हुए हैं वो 1st of April 22 से हुए, फाइनेंशियल ईयर 1st of April 22. तो उससे पहले के जो ट्रांजैक्शंस रहे हैं, पहले काफी सारे लोगों ने अपने हिसाब से स्टैंड्स लिए अपने इनकम टैक्स रिटर्न में. कोई लोगों ने कैपिटल गेन ट्रीट किया है, कोई लोगों ने बिजनेस इनकम ट्रीट किया है. जिनको समझ नहीं रहा था कि वो कैपिटल गेन है कि बिजनेस इनकम है, उन्होंने अदर सोर्सेज ट्रीट किए. सो बेस्ड ऑन ऑफ कोर्स उनके चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट जो रहे हैं वो बेस्ट रहेंगे उनको एडवाइस करने के लिए. बट ये जो प्रोविजंस नए इम्प्लीमेंट हुए हैं ये 1st of April 22 से इम्प्लीमेंट हुए, और उसके बाद जो ट्रांजैक्शंस होंगे उसमें ये इम्प्लीमेंट किए जाएंगे.
Right. So the law will not be with retrospective effect.
It will not be retrospective. It will be prospective, because government, if it has to be retrospective, specifically states that that provision has been introduced retrospectively.
Right.
And from which year it has to be introduced retrospectively, even that usually government states. So government हर टाइम जब भी कुछ लॉ इंट्रोड्यूस होता है और अगर रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव रहता है वो तो स्पेसिफिकली स्टेट करती है.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that is clear. So we can move on to the next question, which is repeating a lot. So yes. Many crypto users have accounts in Bitbns, and also they also hold accounts in Binance, etc., which are exchanges outside India. So they want to understand how both the clauses will be applicable here. So let's say the income tax as well as the 1% part, right?
Sorry, if you can repeat your question again.
Yeah, so many Bitbns users have accounts in foreign exchanges as well, like Binance. So they want to understand how under the new tax regime, right? How would that work out?
So having an account outside, मतलब बाहर अकाउंट रहने का टैक्सेबिलिटी से कोई लेना देना नहीं है. टैक्स एक रेसिडेंट पे एप्लीकेबल होता है. अगर आप रेसिडेंट हो, आपका ग्लोबल इनकम इंडिया में टैक्स होता है. तो भले ही आप फॉरेन एक्सचेंज में ट्रांजैक्शन करो या इंडियन एक्सचेंज में ट्रांजैक्शन करो, 30% टैक्स आपको लगेगा. अगर हम लोग टीडीएस की बात करते हैं तो टीडीएस का जो प्रोविजन है वो बोलता है कि अगर सेलर रेसिडेंट है इंडिया में, अगर सेलर इंडिया का रेसिडेंट है तो टीडीएस के प्रोविजंस को टेक केयर करना है जो बायर है उसको. तो अगर बायर बाहर का है, इंडिया का नहीं है, ही इज अ नॉन रेसिडेंट और इट्स अ नॉन रेसिडेंट एक्सचेंज और एनी अदर पर्सन हु इज आउटसाइड द टेरिटरी ऑफ इंडिया, दैट पर्सन विल हैव टू टेक केयर ऑफ द टीडीएस प्रोविजन. और उसके ये प्रोविजंस नहीं टेक केयर करने का जो इम्प्लीकेशन है वो उसके ऊपर है. जो टीडीएस के प्रोविजंस होते हैं वो जिनको डिडक्ट करने की लायबिलिटी आती है, जो बायर है उनके ऊपर आती है, सेलर के ऊपर नहीं आती है. सो बायर विल हैव द रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. आई होप दिस आंसर्स योर क्वेश्चन आल्सो. सो even
Right.
if you are doing a transaction on a foreign exchange, ऑफ कोर्स वन थिंग, टैक्स जो इंडिया में पे करना है वो तो टैक्स आएगा ही 30% का। टीडीएस का अगर आप रेसिडेंट से बाय कर रहे हो तो आपको टीडीएस काटना है, और अगर बाहर कोई फॉरेन जुरिस्डिक्शन में इंडियन रेसिडेंट से टोकन्स बाय कर रहा है तो वो टीडीएस के प्रोविजंस उसको टेक केयर करने, क्योंकि इनकम टैक्स के ये सेक्शन में, टीडीएस के सेक्शन में लिखा है एनी पर्सन बाइंग और पेइंग कंसिडरेशन टू अ रेसिडेंट सेलर। सो एनी पर्सन में सब आ जाते हैं, नॉन रेसिडेंट्स भी आ जाते हैं, रेसिडेंट्स भी आ जाते हैं, सब आ जाते हैं।
Right. I think that clarifies this, Mohnish. So we can move to the
Yeah.
next question. So one question is, so let's say a person has invested 1 lakh rupees in crypto, right? And they're running a loss. And now they have exited all their holdings in crypto. And now the value is only 80,000, let's say. So in this case, and they want to withdraw that capital. So in this case, how would the tax liability be?
So it's a straightforward loss, right? So 1 lakh is what they bought it for.
Right.
80,000 is what they sold it for. So 20,000 is a loss. वो loss उन्होंने 1 लाख में बाय किया, 80,000 में बेचा। पूरा का पूरा जितना भी उन्होंने बाय किया था, पूरा का पूरा उन्होंने 80,000 में बेच दिया। तो अगर उन्होंने 10 टोकन्स बाय किए थे, 10 के 10 टोकन्स 80,000 में बेचे, तो 20,000 का लॉस हुआ। वो लॉस उनको ना ही सेट ऑफ मिलेगा कोई और इनकम के साथ में, ना ही उनको कैरी फॉरवर्ड मिलेगा फ्यूचर ईयर्स के। दे विल नॉट बी अलाउड टू सेट इट ऑफ अगेंस्ट एनी अदर इनकम, nor they will be allowed to carry it forward to future years to set off against any other income.
Understood. And इससे related एक है कि so let's say a user has invested 1 lakh and they are in profit right now and the value उसका 1.5 लाख हो गया, let's say 1,50,000 is the value of the portfolio. Now they have sold half of it, so they have exited half of the portfolio in this financial year and the other half in the next financial year. So in this case, how would the liability be?
So if for say they have bought it for 1 lakh of rupees and they have, I'm assuming they have bought it at one point in time,
Right.
or the entire amount has been, they've bought it for at one point in time, then they, if they've sold half of it, say for 75,000, they will be allowed to claim a cost of 50,000 against 75,000 of sale which they have done. 25,000 will be the tax amount which they will have to pay. Remaining 50,000 of cost, remaining 50,000 cost of assets will be carried forward to the next year. When they sell it, say suppose next year the value is 1 lakh of that 50,000 worth of asset, and if they are selling it for 1 lakh, then 50,000 is the profit which they have. Then on that 50,000 they will have to pay the taxes. So just to repeat in Hindi, अगर आप 1 लाख में खरीदते हो, 1.5 लाख में बेचते हो, और वो 1.5 लाख में जो आपने बेचा है वो 2 फाइनेंशियल ईयर्स में स्प्लिट है। मान लो 31 मार्च 23 से पहले आप 50% अपना पोर्टफोलियो बेचते हो, 31 मार्च 23 के बाद 50% बेचते हो, तो आपका कॉस्ट 50,000 गिना जाएगा, आपका सेल प्राइस 75,000 है, तो 25,000 पे आपको टैक्स पे करना पड़ेगा, और रिमेनिंग अमाउंट का टैक्स नेक्स्ट ईयर पे जाएगा।
राइट। एक यूजर इससे रिलेटेड पूछ रहे क्वेश्चन। सो हिज आई थिंक ही प्रॉब्ली कम्स फ्रॉम इक्विटी इन्वेस्टिंग बैकग्राउंड। सो ही इज आस्किंग कि होल्डिंग पीरियड से टैक्स रिड्यूस हो सकता है कि अगर मैं 1 साल से ज़्यादा होल्ड करता हूँ? शायद इक्विटी में लोअर टैक्स है, लाइक इक्विटी में 1 साल।
हाँ, सो नहीं, सो अनफॉर्चुनेटली ये चीज़ गवर्नमेंट ने नहीं इंट्रोड्यूस किया है। सो whenever you buy, whenever you sell, there is a straightforward tax of 30%. There is no holding period defined in the case of cryptocurrencies.
So it's a flat tax in cryptocurrencies, right?
Yes.
One repeating question is, so on Bitbns we have some products like FDs. So we have USDT FDs, Bitcoin FDs, etc. So one user is asking that when I make gains in those FDs, which is always a profit, like unlike trading, which can be a loss. So how would the reporting of those gains be?
So basically, I would say they are staking 10,000 USDT,
Right.
against which they are getting 10,500 USDTs, right? So I would say those 500 USDTs, they're getting free of cost. So I would straightforward tax those 500 USDT at 30% is what the approach should be. So straightforward 500 additional जो USDT है 30% पे tax हो जाए.
So this I think stays as it is right now, because even now the like interest income is kind of a business income.
Yeah, but this I would not consider it as an interest income, because भले ही इसको आप interest का term दे दो, it is ultimately income from staking, which is a different category of income which government has to define.
Right.
दूसरे jurisdictions में इसको अलग से define किया गया है. So जो staking से income आता है, ये DeFi protocols में लगा के पैसा आता है. When you put those, when you run those strategies on DeFi protocols, and you receive an appreciated value of what you have actually put in, तो वो जो amount, differential amount आता है, वो staking income है, जो straightforward according to the laws which have been introduced, straightforward 30% incremental tax आ जाएगा. Because when you call it as interest income, then वो एक analogy चला जाता है कि मुझे फिर slab का 250 lakhs का वो deduction मिलेगा, वो नहीं.
Right, right. So even on staking income and FDs income, in crypto FDs income, the flat tax applies.
Yes, we are trying that we make certain representations to the government to get some clarity on these components of different components and different products which cryptocurrency itself has. Because we have seen over the past few years, the kind of products which are coming in cryptocurrencies, these are not going to stop. So there has to be some analogy or some math behind introducing taxation. जो tax लेकर आ रहे हो, आपको product wise लाना चाहिए ideally. Ideally speaking, a lot of countries, they don't tax mining income. They tell mining income is not taxable, like in Singapore. They tax it only when you actually sell the amount which you received from mining. At the time when you sell it in the market, at that point in time, it is taxed. So, and Singapore is completely intention-based tax system. What is your intention? If you've held it, अगर आपने उसको investment के लिए held किया है और sell करते हो तो tax नहीं है, क्योंकि capital gains वहाँ पे tax नहीं होता. So there is an intention-based taxation system there. So there should be some sort of logic behind introducing a taxation is what we would want to initiate and represent to the government. But I think there are already a lot of representations going to the government from all of the lobbies of cryptocurrency. But yeah, this is something I think which will be specifically clarified over the period of time. This is too premature. For now, I think 30% straightforward tax is something where this will fall.
Right. And few of the questions I think we'll have to retake again, because we are seeing like more and more users joining the AMA now. So
Sure.
One question is regarding, one user is asking that rather than withdraw rupees from the exchange, if I move my cryptos to another wallet and then I do a user to user swap, right? So let's say local bitcoins या और कहीं वैसे कर लिया अगर, then in that case how would the tax liability be?
So are you saying the swapping in MetaMask which happens like over the DeFi protocol, or?
No. So basically what he's saying that if he does the transaction with some individual off exchange, so let's say
P2P transaction.
Yeah, P2P transaction or OTC transaction, right?
So that again coming back to the same basics here, that the tax laws have not defined a difference between P2P or an exchange or a DeFi transaction. They have just literally said that any person who is responsible for making a payment to the seller, he is required to deduct TDS at 1%, and any person who is selling the cryptocurrencies, he is required to pay 30% taxes. On what platform, in what way, and how in India, outside India, if he's a resident, he has to pay taxes in India. So those logics have not been defined. Of course, the other day I was asked a question in another session that how will the government know that if I'm doing this on DeFi, how will the government get to know about that? Now that was something which I can't say how will the government know, but all of us know how transparent system this entire blockchain is, how transparent this entire blockchain is. Like it can lead from one wallet to another just with the click of a button. So just considering that logic that government might not be having an infrastructure to understand what the transaction is not something you should actually come with. If you are actually liable to pay taxes, you should pay taxes. And today, and there are a lot of people who are in the DeFi protocol. DeFi entirely runs on non-KYCs. So these people will have to take care. And I think there has to be a bona fide way of declaring the taxes which they earn, declaring the income which they earn and pay taxes on that also.
Right.
In US, I think government has a proper infrastructure to even monitor the withdrawals, the crypto to crypto exchanges. Uh, they are also developing protocols to monitor the DeFi platforms. The other day, I was listening to one of the discussions which are going on in the US Council. They were saying they need to come out with some protocols which monitors the entire DeFi protocol. So if there is some infrastructure which is being developed, of course, the other governments, maybe in India or in any other jurisdiction, will try to copy that and get that in India as well.
Right. So one repeating question, I think we can answer it again, Mohnish.
Yeah.
Is about the applicability of the income tax on mining and staking. I think many users have joined just now and they're asking this question.
Okay. So yeah, so mining and staking, since so I will first discuss about mining. How mining, of course, everybody knows how mining works. बट माइनिंग का अगर गवर्नमेंट ने अभी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड बोल दिया है कि आपको कुछ कॉस्ट नहीं मिलने वाला, कोई भी टोकन्स आपके पास अगर आते हैं माइनिंग के केस में, ऑफ कोर्स यू मैन्युफैक्चर tokens, I would say, instead of saying that you receive tokens, you manufacture it, but you are receiving it free of cost. So the idea is to cover this receipt under the definition of gift because वो free of cost आपको मिल रहे हैं. Now for a miner उसके लिए cost है, infrastructure cost है, power cost है, equipment cost है, काफी सारा cost है जो उसने इनकर किया है वो माइनिंग इनकम कमाने के लिए. जो लास्ट बजट सेशन में जब सेकेंड रिव्यू बजट सेशन का हुआ था तभी गवर्नमेंट ने ये चीज डिस्कस की थी इन द लोअर हाउस, wherein this point was discussed specifically, और उन्होंने कहा था कि उनको क्रिप्टो के सामने कोई भी कॉस्ट का डिडक्शन नहीं मिलेगा अदर देन कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन. So when you say cost of acquisition, the amount which I pay for acquiring that asset from someone else. So in this case, miners को straightforward tax आ जाएगा 30% slab पे under the provision of gift rules which they have introduced. वो लोग ने 56(2)(10 में property का definition revise करके वे virtual digital assets add की है, जिसकी वजह से ये इनकम को उसके under 30% straightforward tax लगेगा. Now coming to staking. Staking is where जहाँ पे आपने 10,000 USDT चढ़ाया है आपको 10,500 USDT मिलता है. So that means you are getting 500 USDT free of cost. तो उसके ऊपर strictly speaking 500 USDT के ऊपर सीधा 30% tax apply हो जाएगा.
So one question, Mohnish, from a user is that they have started with an investment of 1K USD and they have invested in multiple tokens. In one token they have a profit, in one token they have a loss. So in that case, how would the applicability of the tax be?
So being talking simple, profits है तो tax pay करो, loss है तो भूल जाओ.
So the effective tax rate becomes higher, right, Mohnish?
Yes, the effective tax rate becomes higher because now you have to segregate your transactions in trading. Each and every transaction will have to be independently seen. Profit transactions will have to be segregated one side. Loss transactions will have to be segregated other side. Forget the losses, pay taxes on profits.
Right.
That is how the law is.
Right. So I think another question we can take again is one user is asking that if my holdings were bought in the previous year, I sold part of it in this, like he has taken a USDT example. So I sold part of it in this year and part I'm going to sell in the next year. So in that case, how would the tax applicability?
So the part which he is selling this year, जो ये साल में उनका सेल हो रहा है,
right,
वो पार्ट का कॉस्ट उनको डिडक्शन मिलेगा और वो पार्ट जो वो बेच रहे हैं उसका जो रियलाइजेशन वैल्यू है दैट माइनस कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन का उनको डिडक्शन मिलके उसके ऊपर 30% टैक्स आएगा.
right.
तो सेल वैल्यू माइनस परचेज प्राइस कॉस्ट ऑफ एक्विजिशन जो है on that he'll have to pay 30% tax.
Right. One user is asking a very straightforward question. Is Bitbns doing anything which allows users, which reduces the income tax liability of the users? So I think I'll answer that question. So as you know, Bitbns launches new products every few months, right? Like we have the widest range of products. Like we have margin trading, we have investing, now we have the quick swap with around 400 tokens. We have FDs in crypto, which was there. So, and options also is going live in some time. And in addition, there are two more products in the pipeline, which depending on how the clarification comes from the government, might be more efficient in terms of the liability. So, one product which we are launching is index swaps. So that's effectively like index futures. So there what will happen is it's a USDT margin index future, and the index itself has 15 coins. Like you might have read the news article about IC15 index being launched on Bitbns. So the index itself has 15 coins, and the user will be trading in that index, but only using USDT. So all the P&L treatment, all the accounting will be in USDT itself. And the other product which we are launching is managed. So the other product we are going to launch is managed funds on Bitbns. So this is going to be launched by CoinWealth Capital. CoinWealth.capital is the website. So here the fund unit itself becomes the VDA, and any rebalancing of the individual tokens, etc., is done within the fund. So we are hoping after the clarification comes, the liability of the individual might go down in this structure, because all the offsetting, all the rebalancing of multiple tokens happens within the fund, and the user holds the VDA itself. So Mohnish, what are your thoughts on this? Like, will we see more innovation?
So you mean to say that there is a So you mean to say that there is a main token which is backed by different tokens? So primarily the value of this token is derived from different tokens which are beneath that main token. Okay. So
right.
So I think So as I told you, the entire ecosystem is so creative in today's day. What we see that there are a lot of products which the entire crypto ecosystem is adapting from the equity ecosystem. They're trying to copy that. One thing is that, and the second thing is something which I have seen, that something which even equity ecosystem did not evolve over the period of years, that is coming in the crypto ecosystem, probably because the blockchain technology supports that, and I think it has such a wide use case. That is the reason we see such what you can say beautiful products coming in, like you just mentioned about CNW tokens like FDs which you're making. So basically those are the FD products I have seen myself on Bitbns. I think those FDs are primarily backed by staking, right?
Right. So, one question, Monish, is I need to show all my holdings to government in this financial year. So the user is asking if they need to do that.
No, so there is no specific requirement. So the recent tax returns also, which have been amended and introduced by the government, they have not specifically introduced any such requirement for disclosing it. Again, I would say that since the property definition has been amended and VDAs, virtual digital assets, have been included as a separate separate line item under the definition of properties. There, one will have to evaluate whether it requires a disclosure depending upon the slab of income he falls into. But the recent ITRs which have been released by the government, they don't specifically require a disclosure of crypto assets in their income tax return. Of course, income tax authorities, they keep coming out with updated ITRs till the time of due date. So we can expect some updates coming in near future, wherein they might ask to disclose this because this has been recently amended in the income tax also.
Right.
So there can be an expectation that the government might ask the value of crypto holdings, but so far it has not so happened.
Okay. Another question, how is the crypto tax calculated? So basically that is from a user. So I think he's talking about the practical aspects, like when the financial year ends, how will the calculation of crypto tax be done by everyone?
So as I mentioned, you need to list down all your transactions entry wise. It has to be entry wise transactions. You need to, of course, write down the cost. The most approachable way of writing down the cost of acquisition is on FIFO basis, first in, first out. So if you have acquired, say, suppose there have been 5 events of acquiring Ethereum, then and you have sold, if you have acquired 5 units of Ethereum over the different events, over the different period of time, and you have sold 1 Ethereum, then what is the cost you allocate? The ideal way of considering is the FIFO basis, first in, first out basis. So against that 1 Ethereum, you allocate the cost of that 1 Ethereum which you have purchased it for, and then you calculate the profit and pay 30% tax on that.
Right. So just to add to that, we are also working on some reports which will make life. Yeah. So just to add to that, we are also working on some reports which will make this easy. So the user will be able to get all the reports which will allow them to e-file their income taxes in crypto.
Okay.
Yes, a lot of work for everyone in the ecosystem. So, yeah. And one very interesting question is, so let's say if the user buys crypto in India, right? And if they move crypto into a US exchange, so then which countries' laws are applicable? Whether Indian laws, if the person is an Indian resident, then whether it's Indian laws which is applicable or the American laws in this case.
I first want to ask him which state in India does he use to mine? So, okay, so lighter note, but as soon as he mines it and he gets those cryptos on his hand, the tax event, of course, triggers at that point in time. If he's a resident Indian, then he'll have to pay taxes in India at that point in time.
Right. So I think before we wrap up, I think again, we are seeing one more question getting repeated again and again about Binance. So let's many users have holdings in Binance. So again, they want to understand that if they were to encash those holdings by whatever means, so how would the income tax applicability be on that?
See, a lot of users have this question. Of course, this I would just talk about the today's situation. That accumulation which in Binance might have happened over the period of time. So unless and until that specific year and how the accumulation happened is seen, I can't comment on that. Today, when they try to liquidate the asset, they have to pay taxes. After 1st of April, if there is any further accumulation of cryptos which has been happening, they have to pay taxes. So, in both these situations, since they are resident Indians, tax will be applicable at 30% to them. Of course, with the same math of sale minus cost of acquisition. But what is cost of acquisition for them is something which really depends on what has happened historically in their account, which will depend on case to case basis. So I can just comment after 1st of April how it will be treated. If they want to genuinely understand, they can reach out to me how their taxability would work out. And I would love to look into their accounts on case to case basis to understand their taxabilities.
Right. So we are done, I think, with all the MA questions. Just within the CA industry, are you seeing more and more interest in cryptos? Like, are CAs also getting interested in crypto in your circle, Mohnish?
I have seen like after there being higher industry since last year when the education started increasing, people started learning what cryptocurrency is and how it functions and how it is transferred. But I would say even though there are more interests which people are showing in this entire industry, but still I've seen that there is some reservation of fear which the entire industry carries in their mind. That entire space is not something which would I would say excite them, because primarily because of the bad image which globally people have given to this entire space. But the only crowd which I see being interested in this space is the young chartered accountant crowd, which have been showing interest towards learning technology. But ideally, understanding this technology would not actually, it's not a 6 months to 8 months or a year's time, I would say. It needs at least a decade for a chartered accountant to understand how the technology functions, to reciprocate that and put that across on the paper, that how will it impact the taxability of a particular person, because there is a lot of things which is behind each and every transaction in cryptocurrency which happens. So I genuinely feel that the institute, which is a chartered accountant institute, should start taking up a lot of webinars on cryptocurrencies, how one can audit the transaction of cryptocurrency. That is where the awareness and the interest would increase, which currently I see there is some proactiveness being shown by individual members. But I think institute, once they start taking complete interest in the entire cryptocurrency space, they will realize that there is a lot to learn. In fact, I think the entire accounting standard needs to be revised for cryptocurrency industries, like US has done, Australia has done, even Europe is actually underway of doing it. So the accounting logic has to be redefined to explain how the accounts of a cryptocurrency driven industry work. That is something which I think the Indian institutes should start working on. Lately, since last year, where from the time we've seen that the government has become proactive in discussing the cryptocurrency implications. Institute has already started working on it, but I think it will take another couple of years or 3 years for people to become mature and understand how things in this entire space work. We have a lot of young uh, uh, champs who are actually coming in on the board of ICAI, who are taking interest. I keep reading a lot of books on institutes where I see a lot of articles which are coming in on cryptocurrencies. So I see that interest being there, but unless and until the education flows in, the interest will not increase. And chartered accountants will have to work hand in hand because this is something related to financial sector. They will have to work hand in hand to grow this market. And when I discuss with my own peers, between my own friend circles, between my own chapter guys, I see that they are interested to learn this entire space,
Right.
and they see there is potential. So yes, I think we are just 30% there. 70% is yet to, I would say, travel to come to that 100% mark of achieving the knowledge of the entire crypto space.
Uh, so we have a Bitbns Academy, Mohnish, and
Uh-huh.
it's free courses. So
So
anyway,
you
so
are asking me to take course, or you're asking me to give a mentor as a tutor there?
both, we open to both. So
No,
anyway,
no,
I
actually,
think
I
yeah,
have to. I would say, see, I can tell you a lot about how the transaction would transpire when it comes to tax, but when it comes to understanding the technology, how it functions, how the blockchain. So today, it takes a lot of time for me per se to explain what is the difference between blockchain and cryptocurrency. There is a myth that blockchain is cryptocurrency only. So that is a very basic question where we need to start with and come to a point where person understands how a blockchain functions and where cryptocurrency falls in blockchain. So, of course, I would say I'm just 20-30%. I said I'm there. I need to learn that 70%. Of course, I would love to learn that. And if you can share the link with me of the academy which you're just talking about,
right, right.
I would see if I can find some time on the weekends to actually
Yeah.
join that academy. And
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff regarding what you mentioned, what is blockchain, what is crypto, etc. on the Bitbns Academy. And the URL is very simple. It's academy.bitbns.com. It's free courses, certified
Okay.
courses for anyone
Okay.
with a Bitbns login. So feel free to use that.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. I think we can wrap up, Monish, and really appreciate you being here and educating our users
Thank you. Thank you for
about the new
having me
income
here.
tax regime. And I'm sure as clarification comes, we'll need you few times
Yes,
more on
yes, we'll
this.
have to. Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
have to take up a couple of
right,
other such discussion sessions because I feel this is just a beginning. There's a lot more to come.
right,
So yeah, as soon as and the users need to know. I'm glad that I'm actually contributing to this fraternity to educate some users, which uh, which would help them to understand that they don't need to fear to do a transaction. There are tax laws in place where you can pay taxes and do certain transactions. As far as you're clean and you are doing everything properly, I don't think there should be a problem.
right. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Good night, Monish. Bye. Thank you.
Good night. Bye.